Although it can feel like DEI initiatives are under attack these days, 79% of ERGs have a budget between $1,500 to $5,000. 90% of Fortune 500 companies have ERGs. Executives understand the importance of having these programs in place, even if they're not always properly implemented. Your chances of getting an ERG budget approved are high, but there's still no guarantee. However, if you go into the meeting with a detailed budget, you're far more likely to get a yes, and far more likely to get a better, higher funding outcome. Hi, I'm Arash. Welcome to MentorcliQ's ERG Toolkit, where we focus on quick, impactful tips that help you launch, engage, grow, and measure the success of your employee resource groups. This video is part 2 of our 3-part mini-series on ERG budgeting. If you missed part 1, where we talked about important items to include in your budget, you can find the link to that video in the description. Today, we're going to help you begin crafting a budget for your ERG. Before we dive in, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. At MentorcliQ, we love to see employee engagement and development programs succeed. Showing a little love by hitting those like and subscribe buttons helps us know what's working and gives us the feedback we need to make sure you get even more content like this. In our previous video, we discussed the different line items you may want to include in your ERG budget. A major step in getting budget approval is having both an estimated total amount your ERG will need and a total amount allocated to each major line item or category. We recommend a top-down approach that takes into account market research on what's common or typical for an ERG of your size. The RISE journey did a survey of ERG leaders and found the average ERG spend is between $2 to $5 per ERG participant. However, we've seen other estimates that put the average cost per member at around $72 per participant per year, or even as high as $100 per participant per year. Those numbers are pretty far apart, so you may want to meet somewhere in the middle at around $50 per participant. That said, there's no right or wrong answer here for how large or small your per participant amount should be. Your company may have existing ERGs with budgets, for example. If so, you can ask your HR team or other ERG leaders what their per participant budgets look like. If you have no internal data to draw on, industry averages will at least give you a baseline that you can defend. All that being the case, it's still important to consider what kind of budget you can get and then ask slightly above that. Budget requests are negotiations after all. If your budget numbers are reasonable, you're far more likely to get the number you want or close to it. If you're unsure where to start in making that estimate, consider using our free ERG budget estimator. You can find the link to it in the description below. Our calculator has inputs that give you an estimate based on previous year's budgets, the number of participants, the number of events, and the average cost per participant. Go ahead and hit pause on the video if you need to, run some numbers on our calculator, and then come right back. Now that you have a budget estimate, your next step is to allocate that budget across your line items. For example, let's say you used our calculator and you came up with a budget of $5,000. Now consider how much of that will go to the different events, workshops, and activities you plan to have. Do a bit of research on average costs so that your estimates are as reasonable as possible and that the numbers make sense for each type of event or activity. Focusing on virtual activities as much as possible will save you the most money, so we recommend looking into virtual events and workshops where feasible. Executive leaders may already buy into the idea of your ERG, but they may not be bought into the idea of your budget. A carefully and thoughtfully planned budget can be the linchpin toward getting approval for your ERG. Just make sure your budget is based on existing or industry-led data and that it takes into account what your company can reasonably afford to spend to the extent that you have access to that kind of data, of course. This brings us to the end of part 2 of our ERG budgeting series. In part 3, we'll take you to the last step, creating the pitch deck for your budget. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to check us out at diverse.com, mentorcliq.com, and on LinkedIn at MentorcliQ.